AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions. And welcome everybody to the Ask Gun Questions show. So we got Clover from Texas and Tony from New Jersey. I'm down here in Arizona, and we answer the questions like the intro said. I'm going to start the show off with, is there anything you guys want to say? Thanks for joining us, and is there anything that you brought to the show that we want to start off with?
I mean, I didn't bring anything. I mean, I don't know if anybody's following what's happening in Jersey, but we're trying to get a stay on that pretty much unconstitutional law signed in by Governor Murphy. So that's what was going on the 4th or the 5th. I can't remember which one it was. But that's what we're working on here in the state. Was checking it out, and also Illinois just pushed through a whole thing. So my whole word is, when we get the show started, participate, man. 2023 has got to be the year that you're gonna have to donate. I was listening to Holly Sullivan. You guys know her, right? I know you do,
Yep.
G-Webs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were talking about it takes $1 million to get each case to the Supreme Court to win it. And this is on a state level. So when people just say, let's win it in the court, well, it's going to have to be through donations that we win it in the court. Even though the laws are unconstitutional, they have to be overturned, and it takes $1 million of our money fighting another $1 million of our money.
Well, for the potential to overturn it, right?
Yeah.
Like if it fails, like that's just money down the drain.
And I mean, the way all of these things are worded, I mean, New Jersey's is so blatant. Now, if no one follows it, Alexander Rubin is a friend of mine. He also runs New Jersey Second Amendment Society. And dude, the excuses New Jersey was using sounds like somebody whose only experience with law is watching TV shows on court TV. I mean, that's how bad the state's argument is. And it still has to go to court, and it still has to go through the full price. So imagine getting sued by someone and them pretty much reading from a Dr. Seuss book in court. That's how ridiculous some of the stuff is, and we still have to pay for it. So, yeah, I just want to start to show off, but hey, man, if you can help a local Second Amendment group in the fight, please do. And if you watch any of the other Second Amendment type stuff, you know the states that the fights are happening in. You know, New York, Connecticut, California, and New Jersey. Because when they keep trying to push draconian laws through, we have to fight them, then beat them, and then it's on to the next thing, even though pretty much the Bruin decision made it so you should be able to carry in every state with a minimum of fuss. So that's all I'm bringing to the table, just awareness and the fact that we need help.
Am I connecting okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
you sound great.
The database, it was giving me a connection issue, so I don't even know if I'm cut out. Just keep going. So I'm just going to say that, we've got a lot of stuff. I kind of noticed the Heller Instagram posted a bunch of cool articles in the last few days that I used when I did my wrap up yesterday. And there's a couple of interesting, that's the best word for them, I think, fights that the other side is using. I was just watching the Plate Society podcast, and they're kind of raging against for a minute there, they were raging against that whole, like, the other side, the anti-rights side, saying gun safety. And what they really mean is gun safety from guns, as opposed to safety with a gun. And that's a way to, again, confuse the issue, and to keep the conversation or keep the debate going by not solving anything, but just keeping people confused and ignorant of the situation. But the way that that's indicative of the way that they're going to be changing their fights. They're not going to be able to win on the old fronts. They used to be able to appeal to a whole group of people and say, you're not them and they like guns. Well, they can't do that anymore. So they're going to change to new things. And with the Heller, with McDonald, with Ezel, Ezel 2, and then now New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, those are just delineators or like, thresholds or something. They don't just like take place. We don't live in fascism where like everyone has to turn the page to what, the feds say. So everyone is who wants to, is gonna take it in their own direction, the same way we would if they created infringements, and we would do what we could to, squiggle away or squirm out from underneath those jackboot. If they see it that way, we expect a worthy opponent, adversary, to come, with a different attack. In this case, it's almost like defensive things, like you're saying. They're not trying hard. They weren't prepared for this. Their head's not really in it. They have to do this. It's like, to some extent, it's a reflex. It's like a necessary thing. And I think we should be looking at, although it's frustrating when you're dealing with it, we've always had that dynamic and they use that against us. But I think what I'm going to say, though, is that that's an indicator that we are having a different fight than we had in the past. When they could just come at you in New Jersey and say, here's what you can't do, here's what you can't do, here's what you can't do. And now they have to do stuff that's blatantly unconstitutional in order to do it, and then have really just phoning it in, so to speak, and they're doing it in poor ways. That's an indication that, they're struggling and they're flailing. At least that's my perception of it, but I've had that perception for a while. But I think I guess what I'm saying is this year we should expect to see different fights. We shouldn't go, oh, we've won at these things, so let's double down on what we already did. Like, we got to get ready for whatever we don't know yet, right? Whatever's next.
Well, we have to get ready for the flailing, because that's what this is. And we're used to it in Jersey. That was the crazy thing. Call me a pessimist or a realist, but I knew when we won, it was great. But we knew the next thing coming was the state going, yeah, but. It was like all the rules were in place and everything was fine as long as you met all the criteria the state had in place. And they said you deserved a carry permit. You had a good enough reason, a justifiable need. But every other requirement was in place for you to carry safely. And then you just had to meet justifiable need. Well, the secret sauce was no one would ever meet justifiable need. Well, once you remove that, logic dictates you have all the rules in place for someone to carry safely, right? Oh, hell no. The state goes, no, it's dangerous for people to carry. You mean according to the rules you've had in place for 50 years? Yeah, but we never were going to give anyone a carry permit in that 50 year. They had 1,700 carry permits in the entire state of 9 million residents. So they never intended to give you one. And the few that had it could carry because they didn't care. It's never been about safety. It's just been about saying no. So now they're scrambling, and we're trying to get it to go. Yeah, we want to, what do you call it? A restraining order against the law? Is that how you put that? I know it's.
No, there's a cease or something like that.
Something to put it. Yeah, they want to put it on hold until it goes to trial. They don't want the law to actually take effect until after it's tested in court. Yeah, a stay. And I don't understand why you wouldn't do a stay, and this is just my layman's stupid opinion, on the side of freedom. And you wouldn't give the state the power to allow them to lock people up and restrict their rights, because that's what this is. And
well,
it's like,
plus the attorney generals are smart enough to, I don't know if they're political or not, but they're supposed to be, they usually seem to be, well, I shouldn't say that. I remember examples of them, like in different states, like right now in Oregon and in Nevada and stuff, where they look at it and go, well, we can't pay for this, or you're opening yourself up to libel that we can't pay for, or this isn't practical, or this is unconstitutional in 6 other states, so I ain't going to do it. Like a lot of times the attorney generals will stop it. So I guess that depends on if it's I like to say, if that is a political thing, then I'm wrong. And it's like, then they're going to be like, yeah, whatever you say, buddy.
Oh, yeah. And Jersey is definitely whatever you say, buddy, state. And it really sucks, dude, because I'm like, how many people's lives are going to be destroyed because they didn't follow this. How many people who are getting stalked, have to leave their firearm at home, and bad end comes to them, and the state will never take responsibility for it. And it's like, well, it seems you should always err on the side of freedom. And it just doesn't happen. And it's also frustrating, but hey, I'm in the fight, man, and I'm just going to stay in the fight. Win, lose, or draw. That's the thing I decided to do years ago. And until it all turns sour, that's what I'm going to do.
All right. Well, that's Tony bringing something to the table. Clover, you got anything?
Well, I went to a local gun shop, picked one up last week, so hung out there for a little while, and I don't know, talked about a few different things.
Picked up a whole gun shop?
Yeah,
they're super strong or super rich.
I said picked up something there. Anyway, and then I guess in more recent news, the whole bump stock thing that's floating around right now. I haven't.
Are you talking about Michael Cargill, the gun shop owner in Austin, who also hosts a radio show that we've been listening to since the middle of the gun channel days, thanks to the other Texas? And that dude took Texas to court, and then that went to the Supreme Court, Fifth Circuit, or whatever it's called. And then it conflicts with some others thing that said bump stock ban is good to go. So now the Supreme Court has to take it or something like that.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, that's Austin, Texas.
Well, assuming the AG kicks it up to them.
No, I think it already has to. Well, I think maybe I'm reading the things wrong because I'm also trying to read this in the last day or so, or pay attention to it quick, I guess. But I got the impression that because there's some other one that said, "Oh no, the bump stocks are banned." Yeah, that's horrible. That they had to, because there's a conflict. It's like a very good potential, maybe not like they have to do anything, but like that's the circumstances that they usually decide to take a case when there's two circuit courses that conflict.
Right. I don't know that they have to though.
Right, exactly. I shouldn't say they had to, but that's usually when it happens. I guess the best odds are. At least the people that I watched that article. I read an article and I watched that 4 boxes guy, and he seemed super stoked. Do you watch that guy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 4 boxes diner or whatever.
Yeah, I watched him too. Since what was it? GRPC. That's when I first heard of him, and I subbed to him after watching him speak.
I think a lot of people did. I didn't, but then everybody who did started telling me, "Oh no, or referencing it or telling me, no, you got to go watch this video." So I just started watching. I subscribed and started watching. I don't watch every video because he puts a lot of videos out, but when I do have something, I'll go check his. Same with Armed Scholar. He's about the same as Armed Scholar for me. I don't watch every one, but when there's something I'm interested in, I'll go get their opinion.
Definitely. The bump stock thing, see, I was never interested in it as a product, but I met the guys at the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which is now an NRA show, NRA-owned show. And this is back years ago, and I would go doing exactly what I'm going out to SHOT Show to do, was try to pick up sponsorship. And you go back then during the middle of the week and it'll be dead, like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I mean, dead. So I got to hang out with the guys from Bump Stock for 2 hours, 3 hours, and really nice dudes. And when this whole stupidity started happening, it's like I could put face and names to these people. You know what I mean? That you're out of a job now. You're out of a job because of BS politics, and it's not even constitutional. Like it hits different. You know what I mean? It hits different when you know the government pretty much illegally took someone's livelihood. And I guess that's also one of the things that just helped tick me off and stay in the fight, because it's like, this is wrong. Like everything about this is wrong. Like the principles I believed in, the swearing to the Constitution and the joining the U.S. military and then getting out of the military and swearing to the Constitution, uphold the Constitution again as someone who works the election polls. It was just disgusting. So, I mean, that's kind of my motivation for it, but it is just annoying because it's not right on a basic level just being an American is not right. It just annoys me because when somebody listens to us talk, listens to a lot of us discuss this, and they hear we're so passionate, they go, "Oh, you guys are extremists," and I'm like, "Not really at all." It's like, matter of fact, I don't even want to be doing this. I just want you guys to actually pay attention to the Constitution and go by it. I don't even think that's political. I just think that's following the instructions on how to bake a freaking cake.
Am I still in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, my internet's super crazy.
Yep.
I'm trying to post a poll over there, but I don't think it's posted, has it?
I don't see it as of yet.
So,
Yo. Oh, okay. No, I was going to ask Clover. I've seen you use putting up that Gerson 10mm 1911 a few times, man.
What I picked up, the carry model.
Dude.
Yeah.
That looks so good.
It is so sexy. So I was worried about that because they weren't 100% sure on like the color scheme, because I'd kind of asked them that. Not that I care, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Yeah, but you got the model with a comp." Well, first of all, I've had some comments. I haven't done like a regular video on it, which I'm going to clear the air with that. I know you had said something about it too, I think, but the comp is a bushing, and so it comes with a regular bushing. So you can take the comp off if you want. And then the grips, all of that is my thing. With that, I mean, the grips that come on it are pretty good. I mean, they're a G10 style grip. They're fairly aggressive, but I like the finger grooves, and they're cheap enough to add. And then the lock grips or the bogey grips from Lock Grips. Anyway, but they had told me, yeah, we're gonna shoot you the one with the comp, and they're like, that the comp is silver or whatever, and I'm like, or gray, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, huh, okay. And I'm like, and what color is the gun? They're like, you don't remember. And I'm like, that's gonna look like crap if it's like an FDE gun with a gray or silver comp on it. But it came in, and oh man, if it was just a comp that was that color, it'd be one thing. It'd be different. But since all of the accents are the same color, it's just like, it looks so good.
The trigger, the hammer, all the freaking controls.
Yeah,
I'm looking at your video right now. I'm like, look at this son of a gun.
Yeah, it looks so good, man. And when you think about, I don't know the MSRP on it, but I do know the Gerson stuff. I mean, if anybody's got any experience with it, it's price conscious for sure. So, knowing that you've got a price point like that on it, it's like, wow, it's great.
Oh yeah. I mean, because look, when it comes to 10mm, again, a lot of stuff falls into me, price wise, how I'm going to afford it, for the diversity shoot, and really how will it stand up to being introduced to new shooters? Like, is the something juice worth the squeeze? That's the saying I was thinking of.
Yeah, right.
And like, it'll be great having this and seeing this, and it will get some regular dudes who shoot guns to bring their butts to the event. And that's the balance I need to have. Is like, because a lot of guys hear what I do and go, well, there's no reason for me to come because, these guys will probably only have, a Glock 19 there, and I already have that, or I have cooler guns, and they don't get it. Yeah, we have really cool guns show up too. And now when I get the regular gun dude, and that he brings 3 or 4 more of his family members or some of his gun buddies, what I'm doing is just increasing the circle of people that come to the event. And now all of a sudden, you got the hardcore done. Like, you would only come to my event at this point if you didn't know me, but you heard that I was having an event through G-Web's show right here or through your podcast, whatever. You know what I'm saying? You come just to show up and like lend support. But once you saw we had things that you'd be interested in shooting too, which we do at many of our events, you know, you go, oh crap, this is pretty cool. Let me get some of my boys. And then some of your boys are like, hey, my sister-in-law always had an interest in this. Maybe I'll bring her next time. Yeah. And now I'm just in a whole new social circle that even you weren't a part of. And that's why something like this Gerson would make sense to me. But, you know, it's that 6 degrees is a Kevin Bacon kind of separation to make it worthwhile.
Right.
It's like, so is that worth it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it remains to be seen. I mean, the shorts I put out, you can see I was shooting it one-handed. That was more a facilitation of the video than anything. And I got to say, I mean, I put 3 rounds through it. I put 6 rounds through it so far. That's all I've been able to, unfortunately, get through it. I mean, getting stuff ready for shot and all that. But hopefully over the next couple of days, I'm going to put some more rounds to it because I do need to get a full video or whatever out on it before shot. And but I fired 3 rounds and then I realized the thing wasn't in the frame right, and so I'm like, crap. So I put 3 more through it, you know, just for the video. And I got to say it, the comp is on it, and I got to say, you know, I haven't shot it without the comp, but one-handed, I mean, super manageable. Now I was using some S&B, you know, just FMJ target ammo, which is, you know, probably 40 cal, you know,
yeah, pretty much
pressure and recoil and stuff like that. Let's be honest about it. Right. But I do have some Fort Scott. I've got a couple of other, and some, I think some S&B. I think I got some S&B, self-defense stuff, that True Shotgun Club had sent me as well. So I'm going to be putting some other stuff through it and see how it goes. But might be, you know, I don't know if I'm actually going to put that in my carry rotation or not. But
that's kind of heavy, isn't it, bro?
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, that's one reason I talk about it. You know, I've talked about it regularly. Matter of fact, dropped a video not long ago about, you know, the evolution of my carry, right? And I started out carrying 45s. And it, well, I take that back. I mean, I first started carrying a 38 revolver out of convenience or accessibility or whatever you call it, right? But quickly moved into 45, and then just got tired. I'm not a big dude, obviously, and the weight, just the weight on me is like it was a big deal, right? And the LCPs were coming out, and you know, all of that. So I've gotten really used to the small, you know, you don't know they're there, lightweight. So I don't know that I will. I don't know that it'll make the carry rotation. However, that doesn't mean that I would never carry it. My plan is to figure out if I want a light, and if so, what kind. And then, because I put that Streamlight TLR1 TLR10 on there, and I really like that light. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of carrying with a light. So once I kind of figure that out, hopefully I'll know that before April. And then if I make the Tulsa show, hopefully the Kydex guys are there, Bullseye Holsters, and they will, you know, you bring your gun or whatever, they'll make it right there on site to
That's one way to,
you know what I'm saying, to your gun. So if I can get all that figured out, what I'm going to do, I may go ahead and get a holster made. I've got many of their holsters. I like that because you pick your you know, you pick your Kydex, what color design you want. You know, do you want a cant? What type of loops do you want? You know, that sort of stuff. And they do it right there, custom to your stuff. I really like it. So I'll probably pick up a holster just to be able to, like I said, in April, just to be able to carry it if I want to, and kind of play around with the idea of it. You know.
Yeah, dude, because I mean, I carried a 1911, and definitely the weight will get to you, especially if you don't have a good belt and you're not used to it. And that was me in both cases. I was not used to it, had a horrible belt, had a horrible holster, and pretty much it was like carrying a bowling ball.
Oh yeah.
at the end of the day. Now, I have a much better holster, and of course, I carry a Glock 19 appendix, but it's to the point that I forget I have it on.
Yeah.
And I have a really, really good belt. So I think that's one of the most important things, and it would be so cool. I had a friend here who actually made Kydex holsters. He passed away, unfortunately, a few years ago. But yeah, we had that kind of deal. He was like, "Just bring the gun by, dude. We can make one here."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's awesome.
They're the only time I've ever seen that. I mean, if anybody out there listening or whatever, and you need and you've seen that where they make stuff out of, right there at the show like that, let me know, because that's the only time I've ever seen it, years ago. And unfortunately, I say kid, I mean, he was younger than I was. I don't know about how much, but that typically worked that show. He passed away a couple of years ago or something like that. I had a video from Tulsa. Well, I had several because I would go by there every time we made that show and have at least one holster made. But anyway, I got a comment on a video that, oh man, this is awesome. Seeing, I think his name was Nathan, seeing him, I don't know if you know, but he passed away in a car accident, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, that makes sense why they haven't been back to the Tulsa show probably, and that this last, like I said, this last time they were there again. So I'm like, okay, cool. Because that was really convenient. I go to that twice a year, and I know it's good quality stuff, and you don't get any more as far as the fit, right? You don't get a better fit than that. So,
yeah, because I have a one size fits all, which means nothing fits it correctly.
Right.
And I'm using that right now for my SR22 when I do the police combat. I think that's how to say it, right? Police combat shoot, or some police practical combat shoot.
Right.
And it's like, in particular, was made for M&P compact, and it sort of kind of fits. I think it's called a Dara holster, DARA, and I mean, it works good enough. But yeah, I would feel much more safe, even though this has a thumb safety and I utilize it every time, with the decocker, because don't be stupid.
Yep.
It's like, it's just a competition, dude. They don't even have trophies, bro.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd feel much more comfortable with something like that if I had the ability to do it. And heck, I just love to just set it up as a kind of fun, put a light on it with a holster just to have fun with the 22 set up like that.
Yeah.
Because why not? Why not? I don't know how to really run. I don't have anything with a pick rail on it that's modern yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My CZ75s are older. My Glock 19 is Gen 2.
Right.
So this has a rail, and I really want to run something and see how to operate that light and work how I would operate it, because I took a class with it and I used my SIRT pistol.
Yeah.
And I put the light on the SIRT pistol when we ran low light classes. Also did a handheld flashlight because I'm a big fan of Streamlight myself, and they donated stuff to the diversity shoot. And then I used it to do reviews on the stuff they donated and raffled off a lot of it and gave other stuff away. So I'll definitely support a company that supported us like that, word of mouth and a handshake.
Mm-hmm.
But when I ran classes with it, I was still trying to figure out, even in the class, how to manipulate the light without, like, if you go in because you heard a bump in the night and you want to use your light, but you don't want to turn your light on. Let's say the power went out.
Right.
How do you not point your gun at someone instinctively while using the flashlight on the gun?
Yeah. Like you can. I mean, there is a way to manipulate that and use that.
Yep.
But I agree. I mean, the tendency is going to be to muzzle flag, or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the tendency.
So I had to concentrate on that, and I was able to see into the room, and yeah, there was a bad guy there. But it's a part about training. You're not going to have like hit or misses. You know what I mean? You're not going to have oh, that was no one. No, because the training day is only like 4 hours.
Right.
You're not going to go into a room and, oh, that's my cousin, and he came in because he was drunk. So, but I was using that, but I'd really like to like manipulate it at the range, shoot, no shoot, do some different things. So yeah, I'd love to have a holster like that, draw from the holster and use it.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe one day.
Now,
well, for what it's worth,
Ozzy out
good training should have no shoots or people that would be confused with somebody violent to make you have that discrimination, especially in a training environment where you, like you just said, you're going to assume that everything's a game on.
We've done different things, but at different times, because I've trained with these guys and we put stuff together, but it's like, yeah, we want you to continually go. We can't, like, every scenario is different. Every training evolution is different. Mainly because I think we have a lot of experience between everyone that was running the event, that we have a bunch of stuff to fall back on with shoot, no shoot. One was low light, the other was home defense handgun. And we've done that like 3 different times, and every one of them were different. And we base it on how the students would react, and we change the scenarios to just somebody being aggressive, knocking on the door, like, wants some Girl Scout cookies. It's like, well, why were you knocking like there was a warrant? It's like, because this is a class, dude. And that would be nothing. But then the next time we did it, we'd also have someone break into the back door as you're at the front door as a distraction. So we did that kind of thing.
Yeah, Ozzy out there has got a good point. He says, Clover, if you only knew someone who made leather holsters. So that's true. He says leather, goes on to say leather doesn't work well with lights. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do lights, and if I don't do the light, then leather may be an option. I will say that all my other 1911s do have leather holsters. I don't have. I'm trying to think, but I'm pretty sure I don't have Kydex or any. Well, I take that back. My chest rig. No. That's my Glock 20. Yeah, I don't have any. I don't have any holsters for 1911s that are not leather. So there you go.
Look at bougie Clover. I won't put my 1911s in nothing that ain't leather.
Yeah, well, it's not. It wasn't intentional.
No, I'm just.
But now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm like, I don't. 1911s just look good in leather.
Well, to be honest, there's not a lot of people that carry 1911s that want Kydex or that seek it out, and there's too many 1911s. They don't go with Kydex. Kydex requires it to be to the rail, to the cuts, to the serrations, and all that stuff can have issues. So
minor differences.
Yeah. So the minor differences that'll make it so that Kydex doesn't catch or it catches on it and all this. The sights on a 1911 are a whole nother thing. People don't think about the design of new guns is after years of people drawing and carrying 1911s. There was nobody doing any of that in 1911. You carried a gun on the side holster, right? So they didn't care about the way the sights drew and that kind of stuff. So anyway, to be honest, I was just saying, you're not going to find too many Kydex 1911 options that aren't stock. Like they're usually, you have an issue gun in 1911. Well, here's your holster for your issue gun. So as soon as you start getting crazy, well, then you need to find somebody who's willing and able to make a crazy holster for you. I want to hit Ann's coming over from Cape Gunworks conversation. So thanks for joining us. She's in Massachusetts and she's asking when you get suggestions on a first firearm. I don't like to say weapon because it's the only thing. But first firearm, I'm going to suggest I'm going to let these guys answer, but I don't answer this one. I don't get a chance to answer this very often because I don't get the question very often anymore. But I'm going to use the cars. If you were going to ask someone what's the best first car to buy, if you ask somebody at the beach, if you ask a single mom, if you asked a construction worker, and if you asked somebody else, they're probably going to get 6 different answers from those 4 different people, right? So think of that when you're talking about guns. Everybody's got their own issues. They've got whatever they purchased. And when people purchase firearms, I don't know if it's unique. It's kind of like cars again. When you purchase a Chevy, you're going to defend Chevys, even if you don't own a Chevy truck, but because you're on that team or whatever. There's a lot of that with guns, and people admit it or not. So my caveat is find out why you want to carry, and if it's a passing interest or something you want to get into, and then find out if you can get in touch with somebody either on a professional or just a clinical type of way so that you can get some instruction without any kind of attachment to a brand or like because they know you. Like, so I hesitate to say family for a lot of reasons, or even close friends. Instead,
Mhm.
reach out to some instructors or somebody like Tony, who will just be like a clinical third party who's just there to offer his advice, but it doesn't have much attachment to your situation. And then take that back to the people whose insight you value and see how they, react to the options that you've come up with. Because often it's an intimate thing. Like if you ask somebody to buy shoes for you or to buy your car for you, it'd be very difficult. Instead, you want to learn a little bit about what shoes are out there and what you're going to do, and then you're going to make a decision. And then be aware. I'll let these guys answer, but you're almost never going to buy the first car the right way. You're going to buy it for reasons that you think you like, but then you're going to find out you need it for other things. Same with your shoes or a jacket. It's like that. So that's why so many people have multiple firearms. So your first one, I'd say, think about it. Do I need to get to work right away? With it, am I going to use it defensively or for some reason right away, like competitively or something? Or am I going to have some fun with it and then take that adventure with a grain of salt? Is this going to be my first gun or is it going to be my only gun? And now I'll let these guys answer.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just checked out what she said. She said personal everyday carry and home defense. All right. So that changes things up immediately. So personal everyday carry, you can do both of these things with one handgun, but with the personal carry, it affects the size of the firearm that you're going to use.
Maybe.
Do you want? It could, because
Yeah.
I see she's a lady, so I'm
That's what
assuming.
I'm saying. Some ladies do, they do purse carry. They cross the strap and they do all the things they're supposed to do. But
Also,
that is a thing.
I have my friend Tiffany that carries a Glock 17 and a Glock 19 on body every day.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I didn't believe her, and then she showed me. So yes, you can carry. So, all right. First of all, price. Price gives you an idea where we can start. A good starting point for me in the middle of the road with a quality gun with no buts about it. Like it's a good gun for the price. No, a starting point for a good gun in my book is between $500 and $600,
I would agree.
and that gets you right into the space of guns that are military and police issued. So they have a track record and have been tested by those agencies. So we're talking FN 509s, we're talking Glock 19, Glock 17, SIG P320, SIG P365s, what else? CZ P07s. And these are all striker fired guns like the Glock, but we can also go with hammer fired like the CZ P07. Can we get into the Beretta? Is the Beretta 92 compact? Is that somewhere in there, Clover, or am I going that's a little higher?
I think it could be. I mean, the thing to keep in mind with this is where you've got that learning curve, and some people they just want the tool, kind of like G Web's
Mm-hmm.
example with the vehicle. It's like it's just got to get me 10 miles one way back and forth to work. Like other than that, I don't care, right? But it's important to know a little bit about cars, going into it as well. So when you talk about a hammer fired, there's two things that immediately pop into my head with hammer fired. It's going to be either single action, and when it has a hammer in its single action, are you going to carry it locked and cocked? Or are you going to carry it with a hammer down? Or are you going to carry it without one in the chamber? Like, what is your method of carry in that situation? And are you going to be comfortable doing that? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second option is a single action, double action in a hammer fire, which means you can just pull the trigger on that one. And, you don't have to have the hammer back. But with that long trigger pull, right? Is that something that when you need that first shot to count, that's problematic. Is that too heavy of a trigger pull with that where the length is usually, it's not usually the weight, I would say, with a double action pull as much as it is the length that gets people, I think. And is that going to be problematic? So there's some things to look at in the design of these firearms, I think, to weigh out as well.
I agree with you. Oh, and another thing is M&Ps. M&P. Okay. Now, don't know if you're a new shooter. I mean, you asked the question, but that doesn't mean you're a new shooter. It just might mean you're new to handguns. But if you want something with a safety, also that comes important. Even a striker fire gun with my suggestion usually in something like this, just as a blanket statement, is something Glock 19 size, striker fired, one type of trigger pull. And if you want a safety and you'll feel safer with it, then you can get other guns that are striker fired with a safety, like P320 compact, P365, M&Ps, and who else? Ruger has some, but I'm that's kind of sliding out of that and going a little further down.
Right. Right.
But that's what I suggest in the $500 to $600 range. Striker fired guns that have already been checked out by the PD in the military. Now, if that price range is too much, we can go down, but then we kind of get into you kind of getting what you pay for, and the quality control issue, holsters, parts, that kind of thing starts to come more into play. So yeah, my best advice, like a one shot without doing a whole bunch of explaining, is that $500 to $600 striker fired. And if you feel fine with a safety, if that means you're going to carry with one in the chamber, then definitely pick up one with a safety, and just every time you draw, take the safety off. That becomes a part of your draw stroke, practice with it, and I think you'll be fine. And it also gives you enough that if you want to compete with it, you can, because you're not going to be at a disadvantage because you have a gun that you can shoot. Well, it's not too small for you to operate. I just started competing in November, and we had ladies there and gentlemen bringing their P365 to competition and having fun with it because Jersey just got the permission to carry, and these people wanted some practical, well, not practical, but some practice drawing their guns under a stressor and shooting them under a stressor. And they weren't at a real disadvantage against guys who had bigger guns or who had competition guns, because they weren't going to, beat these guys. But what they did was they didn't have to buy a gun just for that stuff. So I think that's a good spot to be in. Glock 19 type striker fired stuff with or without a safety.
Well, there's a lot of people. I would venture to guess the majority of people that are getting into firearms or carry, like first time, are probably price restricted or price conscious. And I just say that because the amount of
the numbers are with you.
Sub 500, right? Dollar handguns.
I think it's because it's younger people and they're, on their way into life, and not old retired people with investment money to spend.
I think y'all making an assumption that I had to until I started doing a diversity shoot, and I discovered that it's not. The numbers aren't what we thought they were.
It's going to skew.
Okay. Well, and there is a baby boom generation that's aging
though too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I thought exactly like you guys did until the people started showing up were more closer to my age group, and they had more disposable income.
Nice.
So everybody wasn't slagging in looking at Tauruses and Canics. They were actually not stunned at Beretta, FN, CZ prices.
Yeah. When you're new and you don't know what a gun costs, and they go, "Here's a $1,200 gun," you go, "Okay, guns cost $1,200."
Yep.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sitting there like, what? I'm like, I thought people would be like $300. That's ridiculous, but nah. I mean, there are
at some point, like I get what you're saying, and I think it's regional. I think locale has to deal with the that demographic and everything, but you've also got people like there's things that I know are a decent buy for what they are, but I will never be able to afford it, or I can't afford it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so there is
Oh, that's
that.
an interesting question. What if there was
Like-
a gun, just a side tangent question, if there was a gun that you hated or you didn't even like at all, but you could get it at a massive value, would you still buy it?
Oh yeah, I'm an opportunistic buyer, so yeah.
A gun that I hated. I mean,
There's some guns that I just don't like, or like maybe it's like a cowboy gun that you just have no interest in, but you just know it's a good deal on it.
But it's a good deal. Yeah, I absolutely will buy a good deal.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm the
here's the
same way. It's
annoying.
still value, even if it, if I saw
Right.
something else I don't like that is a good deal, like a camera or something, I'm still gonna buy that too, right?
What annoys me is I get stuck with the Jersey thing because I had to get the pistol purchase permit and all that other stuff along with it.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah. So if and you got to burn up a permit and you got to do this. But if it wasn't for that, yeah, same exact thing, dude. I'm a gun guy just like you guys.
Well, I'm glad that you said that, because I always say, we'd say so often, not every show, but often we'll say something in Clover and I'll be like, yeah, let's do it. And then you're like, hold on, not everybody can just do nothing. You got to
That's right.
So you can pay for
Right.
it.
It's crazy, man.
Living in a free state all my life, yeah, and honestly, living in a rather poor part of a free state all my life, it certainly skews perspective a little bit. Back to Ann's thing though.
Mhm.
What I would add, and I think you alluded to it, and there certainly was some stuff out there in the chat, was, if you have friends, if you have, maybe a range, a way to get your hands on a few different models. And something that I've done, I've got quite a few firearms, and if somebody was looking for something, a lot of times what I would do is I would, kind of get an idea, get a sense, of what they're looking for or whatever, and put out a buffet, so to speak, of various things that they could look at and try. And keeping in mind that just because there's a certain one, and I'll use Gunpowder Beauty brought up a Burst of Thunder, for example. So if I get somebody that likes, say, that Burst of Thunder, they're like, oh, this feels good. It points naturally for me. The weight is not too much. That sort of thing, right? Don't automatically assume that you need to go with a Burst of Thunder. There are many other firearms that are the same size, styling, design, caliber, capacity, just a different brand, right? Maybe a better brand, maybe a worse brand too, but maybe a better brand. So being able to experience a few things can help you kind of narrow down what fits best for you. I tend to want to say, just get something that is generically proven, and run with it, because for the most part, firearms do not drop in value if they're taken care of. At least not
taking care of them, yeah.
At least not much, right? But at the same time, if like I said, I have a tendency to want to say that, but I always check that by saying one of the most important things is time on the trigger. Just having the license that says you can carry that, having the firearm, even if it's a very high dollar nice firearm, you need you need to be comfortable, you need to be competent, and you need to be confident. And all of that the comfort part comes with picking something you like, and it could be as silly as an aesthetic thing or the color. But if you're not carrying it because it's a weird color gray or some crap like
the
that,
guy at
I
the
don't
store
like
and
the way
my
this
uncle's
looks.
the guy at the store and my
like,
uncle said I should carry this, but I don't like carrying it, so I leave it at home. Is what you're saying is get comfortable with it. And then if it turns out, oh, I'm good at this, now I can try the one my uncle recommended.
I mean, who wants to drive a car every day that they absolutely hate for whatever reason? The springs in the seat poke you. It's not, the seats aren't comfortable, or maybe you bought it, because it was a good deal. But I hate the color of my car. Going back to that analogy, right? And so that affects, when I talk about those 3 C's, that affects your comfort level with that. And so you want to find something that you enjoy. It's like, I enjoy shooting this. I enjoy, and if you enjoy going to the range, putting rounds on paper or putting rounds on steel, or practicing your draw. If you enjoy that firearm, I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. I like the way it performs. I like the way it handles. You like all of these things, then that's going to get you pulling the trigger more, which builds that competency, which ultimately leads to the confidence with carrying. And that's something that I see with new people that carry. It's just the competent level with it. I mean, I know people that are, Tony, G, you both know what I'm talking about, but the people that'll dog on, let's say 380, right? Or 32 ACP or even 25 ACP. And it's like, at the end of the day, if you're able to draw and put shots where you need to put shots, right? If you're competent with that, and you're comfortable with that, then you're gonna be okay.
I take that to another level because the chances of being in a gunfight are less than the chances of being hit by lightning. So in reality, what the gun is just insurance, like a fire extinguisher or having some kind of literally insurance policy. You're not depending on it very often. You've got it. You want to be comfortable with it. Having an insurance policy, having a fire extinguisher gives you the confidence to go on vacation. It gives you the confidence to try that new dish in the thing, and not to, you're going to use your oven, you're going to put a Christmas tree up, right? Having insurance means you can enjoy life. So having your firearm means that, okay, I can go down through the parking lot. I know I can handle myself. I don't need to be concerned about going to the movie because I'm going to walk out of the movie and go to the parking lot. What's the odds that you get? And no, it's not unrealistic. If you're in a super bad neighborhood, we're not talking about that. But in reality, if there's something that you have a concern and you want to carry a firearm, unless you've actually got a restraining order against somebody, and that's obviously a scenario for some people, but for most people, it's like, I have a concern about other people and I want to carry around a firearm, or I have children and I feel it's an obligation to be able to, be capable for that role, then I'm going to carry it. But that's why I'm all about, it's a revolver. It's a 5-shot 38 revolver. It's in my pocket right. Well, I have a 357, but it's in my pocket right now. You don't even know it's there. It's less than almost anything else, like keys even. And it's with you all the time. Now, for somebody who just needs to have the confidence or the knowledge that they're not on their own, they've got a Smith & Wesson, right? The equalizer in their pocket. Then that gives you the confidence to go enjoy life. And that's why I'm like, why are you going to dog on, some people don't want to go to Pilates. Some people don't want to go into a Brazilian jiu-jitsu and do that shit all day. Some people don't want to have to go to, like, what's that thing called where they run around throwing kettlebells, right? Like some people do that and some people ain't. Guess what? You're both going to enjoy your lives, but you know what I'm saying? So if you want to carry around a small, easy to carry gun that's going to work, if you actually have somebody on top of you, so many people think, oh no, this gun works great at the range. I've seen people shoot expert level competitions with it, and all these well-trained military people are awesome with it, and police use it just fine from an outside the waistband holster with no concealability at all and full retention. Like, they can all use it great. So why wouldn't it be perfect for me in my spandex? Like, all right, fine, you can do it, go nuts. But guess what? The lady who's just got a revolver in her pocket, enjoying life, and something does happen, I think a good chunk of the time you brandish, or it's a critter, and you just need to pop that critters and make a noise near it, and it's running off. You're protecting children, not getting into gunfights. So there's a lot of people that challenge me on the revolver in the pocket, but there's a reason millions of those exist, and it took years for millions of these other guns to exist.
Well, a couple of things. So let's get back to Ann and her actual question and her situation. She lives in Massachusetts, so you got a list of guns you can have. All right, because they have a roster there, and they also have the same stupid restrictions we have in Jersey. And it took her 10 months to get her permit. So let's understand, you're going to have to do your research. You're going to have to find out what you got. She lives 45 minutes away from Cape Gun Works. I forgot I was going to look up. Now I'm just assuming they have rental guns over at Cape Gun Works. So find something in your price range. And since you live 45 minutes away, just plan the time to go out there and check it out. And rent a few guns. Now, I don't know how they do it because different ranges do things different ways, but let them know you're looking for a carry gun and a home defense gun all in one. and take a little bit, find out how much is it for, like an hour, if they do it on an hour time frame, because you usually have to purchase their ammo, and that's when the real expense comes, because they charge gun range prices for their ammo. But do it, because it'll give you an education. It'll let you shoot different types of guns. And if you have friends that also have firearms, shoot theirs. But don't let their likes or dislikes sway you. You determine, after getting some trigger time, what you like, and go from there. And you might buy something and then later regret it, but that's just mean you can sell it, or that'll be your, hey, this was my first gun. And then I bought another one that I like because I learned a lot with this first one. But
yeah, guns are for stuff, right? So like you go drive a Jeep at a rental, you rent a Lamborghini, you rent a pickup truck. They're all vehicles, but they drive differently. You buy the pickup truck because you think that's best for you, and then it turns out you get a new job and you really rather have the Lamborghini. Well, you can throw the truck away, put a down payment on a Lamborghini, or put it in the garage and have both.
Well, and also shooting a gun. I just want to throw this one out before we get away. Shooting a gun and having fun with it at the range is also a different thing than how it feels to carry that gun comfortably.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Clover.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like, it's not, even in situations where, like you're talking about, Tony, you've got restrictions with the state or whatever the case might be. You're going to go through your carry is going to evolve, whether your life situations or your clothing options that you have to wear, or whatever the case might be with that. It's going to happen. I mean, when we were talking about all this earlier, I've gone through, like, in 18 years of carrying, like 14 different, and we're talking about, I will one-off carry a lot of different things. That does happen. But as far as my actual carry rotation, that there's usually 2 or 3 or something like that I consider a part of my carry rotation at any given time. And there's been like 14 different handguns that's rotated in and out at over like 18 years. So nearly one a year, right? And so it happens now. I think I still own all of those. So I've never gotten rid of anything, but situations change and you realize, wow, like just G was talking about with risk mitigation. I mean, the number one, and started out by saying weapon, and I agree with G. I tend to use the word firearm rather than that. But your number one weapon is your brain, is your noggin. And that's, situational awareness and things like that. And then, when you start coming at things from that mindset, you can really start mitigating that risk even more and more and more. And as you start mitigating that risk, right, that can also change what you may decide that you want to carry.
I'm just laughing at G-Webs. Yeah, man. If we got a chance to tell somebody about getting their first gun, we really do jump on it and we go way down the rabbit hole. But it's because
I figure we don't do it very often. We usually refrain ourselves because we're gonna mansplain.
Yeah. It's like you don't want to talk somebody into the fact that they like, you know what, I don't even want a gun now. I'll just stay in the house. I'll order through Uber Eats for the rest of my life. But it's we've all been here. We've all bought that gun and then decided later on that we needed something else, and it grows and it evolves, and you want to give people really good advice. Because again, I live in a state where it takes forever to get the permit. And people often, no matter how much advice I give them, and I say, look, you can get three pistol purchase permits without a problem. And you can get as many as you want, really, but your cop is probably going to fight you down at the station over it, even though he's wrong. But you can get 3, so get 3. And people go, well, I only want one gun. I'm like, get 3 or you'll regret it, because something else will come up after you get that one gun and you realize you want something else. And people don't listen to me. And then the next thing you know, about 30 days after they get their first gun, take it to the range like 3 times, they go, yeah, dude, I had to put in for another purchase permit because I want to get something else I saw when I was at the range. Because what you're going to do is grow your social circle to people at the range, and you're going to start shooting their guns. And now that gun you thought you dug because you rented like 7 guns was something that you never saw before. I felt blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it, because when I first got into it here in Jersey, I went the formal route and became a firearms instructor after I took my NRA class. And in my handgun class for NRA instructor, they had everyone bring their firearms. And then we all, the entire class, I think it was like 15 of us, had to shoot each other's guns going through the qualifications. So you got to check out whatever anyone brought. So I was shooting 1911 Springfield 1911 range officer. I got to shoot a Walter. What was the first one called? PDP? No, before the PDP.
PPC.
No, the Walter. The first one with the great trigger, and everybody talked about
PPQ.
PPQ. That was I got to shoot the PPQ for the first time, and that blew me away. I got to shoot a lot of Glocks. I got to shoot some Smith and Wessons. So I was going down the line, and then I shot my actual first competition built for competition 1911, and that just blew my mind. It's something like that could even exist. And this guy was like, "Yeah, I built this myself by hand, and it still cost me like $3,500." So you'll learn a lot, and the things you buy will change, but I want to hit you right in the middle. I want to give you that good advice so you land on that gun that can serve you for a really long time and not go, yeah, I bought it and then I found out everything about it was wrong. So, and she's 5'6", and 5'6", Anne-Marie. And I'm figuring, yeah, something like a P365, P365 XL, or one of the SIG P320 compacts with a safety if she wants some. These guns all came with safeties, and I think that would be a good middle of the road. And if it really didn't work out, you could still sell it and get most of your money back if you had to let it go to buy another one, if that's how you're going to handle it. Also, it won't put you at a disadvantage if you decide to, hey, yeah, maybe I am going to go to Cape Gunworks once or twice a week and shoot in some kind of league, and you won't really be at a disadvantage. And you'll have plenty of holster options for inside and outside, the waistband carry, that kind of thing.
So we should have just saved ourselves a lot of time. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. Anne Marie is in Massachusetts, and that's where Kellyanne. Wait.
No, Kellyanne is in.
No, not that Kellyanne. Different Kellyanne Eau Claire.
Oh, okay. Who
is the DC Project, and I believe she also no. Well, Armed and Feminine is Carrie Ann from
Pigeon, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Okay, she's Pennsylvania. This is
Kelly. There's a Kelly Ann and a Carrie Ann.
Yeah.
Oh, Carrie Ann.
Conflated. Well, here's the two of them in a picture together. They're two separate people. So Carrie Ann Eau Claire, not Kelly, right? Anyway, the DC Project rep from Massachusetts has Carrie Ann is the DC Project from Massachusetts. And also we're talking to an Ann. So we've got a lot of Anns going on. But anyhow, you've got good hands. There's an organization of ladies that are Second Amendment activists, and most of the ladies involved are also either firearms instructors or competition shooters, or people that are at least very comfortable in ambassadorship to firearms and awareness of firearms. So Armed Women of America, thank you. And so she's in an organization of ladies that do competition shooting and safety and education and advocacy, as well as an advocacy group that does awareness, boots on the ground, grassroots activism, awareness to legislatures that are representatives of both the national and state level. So we should have just sent her over, and I did send a link over to Carrie Ann Eau Claire's Instagram, which is probably a good way to get in touch with her if you use Instagram. If you don't, I'll try to find her YouTube. I think she's got a YouTube as well. but there's a bunch of resources out there for females, for ladies. If you want to chat with other ladies who've gone through the same thing or have to deal with all the mansplaining or whatever, have experienced a lot of the different guns and a lot of the different situations that we may not be familiar with.
And She-Fires is out there in the chat too.
Oh, heck yeah.
So, there you go.
Can I throw this out there real quick? And if you're a dude and don't want to go through all the tactical Timmy bullcrap, go to some of the lady sites because they cut all that bullcrap out and they bypass all that. So if you want to escape the whole G-Watt tactical Timmy, this is what you need and you're going to die.
Yeah,
go to the lady sites and that'll skip all over that bullcrap. And yeah,
you know, we have guys, we have the ladies that approach the guys for advice and opinions, but like it can work. You're right. It can work the other way, but how often do you see that?
Nobody suggests it.
Yeah.
And to me,
I would have no problem. I mean, talking with, if I was curious about what might work best or this, that, and the other, I would you talk about Kellyanne, for example, I would have no problem hitting Kellyanne with a text or a phone call and saying, hey, what's your opinion on this, this, and this? No problem.
One of the best channels, and because I know Kellyanne Pigeon, Armed and Feminine, she has a YouTube channel, and she does reviews from her perspective as a woman who's a firearms instructor and has taught hundreds of females. And it doesn't come into the whole, I mean, it's, now again, I like the gun reviews. I like a lot of stuff, but everything ain't got to be grand thumb and nothing fancy. You know what I mean? You don't have to, when you take your pistol
the ladies
out,
keep it simple. They really do, I think.
and guess what? Most dudes are going to keep it simple too. You're not getting a drop leg holster to carry your P365. Right. I'm like, now I've taken classes. You guys know it. I mean, and I showed up at one class and everyone looked like they were going to deploy. Like it looked like it was going to be, what do you call those people now? Military contractors. It looked like a military contractor convention. Not one of those persons served in the military. Everybody was dressing up because they got their chance to put on all like high-end gear. And I'm talking about Cry Precision pants and like all that stuff. And I'm looking around like, wow, I didn't know I was supposed to dress up today. I just showed up in some work boots, jeans, and a t-shirt, how I live my life. And I grabbed my AR. And I had my belt and I put my mags in my pocket and I ran the freaking class. And they were guys with plate carriers on. And I'm like, giggle, giggle. I'm here to run my rifle, dude. Or I'm here to run my handgun. That was another thing in the handgun class. And everyone had a drop leg holster in the belt. I had my carry gun in my holster on my belt and 2 mags shoved in my pocket. And another 2 on a mag holder just to make it convenient for class. Outside of that, no, I carry and use my guns in class unless it's specifically for something different because I've done the tactical thing already. And I found out it's hot and it's useless. It's hot and it's useless in a good way to end up a heat casualty. But yeah, definitely Armed and Feminine. Is the thing. And yep, that's where Kellyanne's is, right? Armed and Feminine on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of purple.
Yeah, actually, I spoke and hung out with her in October at the DC Project New Jersey fundraiser. She's always a fun person to hang out with. Almost as much fun as crazy ass Amanda Suffolk. Who's running for the DC, what you call it? You know that? Did you guys know that? Amanda Suffolk actually, yeah, she's running for the NRA board along with Rick Hector.
Yeah. Yeah, that was that come down at the NRA, the NRAM, I think. That was kind of ball starting to get pushed during that, I think.
Yeah, so if you guys remember Rick Hector and Amanda Suffolk are actually 2A advocates that have done work for a long time. So if you want to actually have 2A advocates on the NRA board, that's one way to get them. Because I haven't given up on the NRA. I just hope, enough people wake up and it turns into the thing that the anti-gunners think it is.
So I think if you look at the climate, and especially if you look at young people coming in, they have to, right? Like there's not going to be, it's going to come to a point that there's no way they can possibly hold the line, right? Because the problem with the NRA, let's be honest, is the old guard. We talked about that, and there's going to become a time where that old guard is so old they are in the grave, and at that point, what do you do? Like it's inevitable.
There's three sides to that. There's the old guard that took advantage of the real issue, which was the apathy and complacency of the NRA membership. That true, they weren't encouraged to be active, but they also, as they took for granted what the leadership was doing. And then the fourth side of that, which probably to some extent is a factor here. I don't want to say to blame or the one, I don't want to make them the out, but they certainly understand the dynamic. And when they can see an apathetic membership and a greedy leadership, they know how to exploit that because they are that.
Yeah.
But I just want to throw that out there because I don't want to, none of us are anti-NRA. We're trying to show a big picture.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot more complicated than most people that's like, oh, screw the NRA. It's way more complicated than that.
Listen, if you want to say screw the NRA, but you send your money to another state or national group that actually is in the fight, great. But if you're saying screw the NRA and doing absolutely nothing, stop talking. Just stop.
That's true.
You're not helping anything.
Yeah, that's true too.
No,
moving on from that,
you're helping Bloomberg when you say just that screw the one and then do nothing. You're basically helping Bloomberg for free.
And this concludes the NRA talk. So we're done with that.
Well, here's the thing. I threw a poll up there and said, what do you want to talk about? All things SHOT Show, 2A in 2023. What dog is what caliber? That was the last question that came up in the actual thing that we're here for today. And then best things at SHOT Show 2023 specifically. So like in that order, at first, if you guys were watching, the first chunk of votes were all things SHOT Show by a long shot. And then it switched to 2A in 2023 being the now there's a distribution out there, but 2A in 23 is number one at 40%. Then there's a tie for SHOT Show, both SHOT Show answers. And then the last one is the dog one. So that being said, we've been talking 2A. Let's talk about Worthwhile Fun for a second, because she's out in the chat also. So Susan was in the DC Project and went to the DC Project rally in Washington, D.C. last year. Now I'm going to forget when. Was it September? It was before gun rights policy. I think it was like the week before for some reason. So I think it was September last year. And because I don't know why, they ended up needing to relocate their rally from the Capitol, which had a nice big yard and good for photo ops, over to the Supreme Court building. And then Krabby, who's also out there, look at him, and both in the same chat. Krabby was out there filming for us. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. And then we got a chunk of their speeches, their kind of testimony to the world there, recorded. And then Worthwhile Fun, or Susan was able to help me figure out who everybody was without subtitles or whatever. I really didn't know who everybody was. So thanks for that. And thanks for the DC Project for basically going to DC and representing gun owners, right? Because they are gun owners and they have a perspective on gun ownership that is, it's ignored and it isn't looked at all. So they bring that facet of gun ownership to representatives, but in addition, they bring the circumstances and the situations that other gun owners either are usually unaware of or unable to voice. So thank you for that layer. But then additionally, they become points of contact for these representatives, both the ones that are on our side traditionally and those that aren't, as experts in the field and people that they can go to when they're challenged with, bad stuff or dumb things. So, creating a real resource there on multiple levels over the last 7 years, and it's continuing to grow. So thanks for being out there today, and thanks for giving us an opportunity to focus on that. I guess I shouldn't be clicking on Krabby Turtle, but instead on Worthwhile Fun. You can check them out on Instagram. I dropped the other link. I'll drop your link as well, so anybody wants to check it out. Anyway, just wanted to take a second to do a public service announcement for an awesome organization that I'm going to go ahead and say has already changed the playing field since the topic has been requested to be 2A. I say the playing field's been changed. One of the reasons we're having issues is, of course, the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association. But one of the reasons it even got to that is because the representatives are up, they're trained, they're aware in a way that they've never been before. And that wasn't through the poor leadership of the NRA. That wasn't through their lobbying efforts. It certainly wasn't through the organization that brings in over $16 million a year, but nobody knows who it is. And then the other organizations that everyone does know the names of, but make less than $10 million a year, right? So I think that their influence has been dramatic and unrecognized. What do you guys think? Based on the tactics of the other side changing so dramatically.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I was going through pictures. I was going through some photos, and I have one of me and Diana Mueller at NRA when she was telling me about what her new organization was doing. I think it was 2015 or 2016, and I was telling her about what we were doing. I've supported her since then because I thought it was really important. What I found out when we went and testified, there are very few pro-gun people that were at the testimony in the New Jersey Assembly who actually went, here's my contact information. I'll give anyone my contact information and we can discuss firearms privately. If you have any other questions, I'll send you all emails with my contact information. I'm willing to take you to the range and do anything so we can help educate you about firearms and why this bill or that bill is a bad idea. But during legislation is not the best time to try to do outreach. And that's what DC Project does on a national level. And as of last year or the year before, even though COVID shut most of it down, that's what they want to do on a local level. I think that's what they talked about in January, right? G-Webs, you were in the meeting with me, right? When they were doing their end of the year thing.
Yeah, at SHOT Show, you mean?
Yeah, at SHOT Show. So yeah, they went to the state level, and that's where I was in October at the state level fundraiser. And I think that's very important that they're doing it on the state level, not waiting for a tragedy, putting groups together and going to visit the legislators on a local level because all politics are local. And they're really effective at doing it. And I think they did affect how the other side is trying to deal with it now, because you can't say you're all moms. Not when you have DC Project ladies on the state level.
I don't know what moms did prior to. I don't even know how to put this because DC Projects, it's been around been around for a minute for sure, but I don't know what they did. I don't know what they did prior to the last couple of years, right, where DC Projects just really started to gain traction. But it seems like, or I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know the correlation of before and after, but it seems to me like the moms really only trotted out when there was something to exploit, whereas DC Project is regularly, regardless of what's going on, right, making the trips, having the conversations, doing the work. So it's a much different scenario where you've got it going on a regular basis, as opposed to, oh, here's a tragedy, let's go exploit it. It's like the difference between the two approaches there are night and day.
Yeah, let's clarify. You're talking moms demand, which is different than the 1 million moms on our side.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I'm talking when I say moms,
just because we may have
red
talked
shirts.
About one of the other moms groups.
Yeah, so I mean the red shirts. Yeah.
And that's a tactical arm, a useful arm, a tool of the anti-right side. It's funded as a tool when they need to appeal to that demo, or when they want a demo that's difficult to attack for whatever strategy. Then they'll bring those people in. They'll encourage the few that they exploit because of their emotional attachment, and then they use those emotions to rally their kind of crowds. So I think of them as more like a platoon or a brigade of willing volunteers when necessary, volunteers / paid participants when necessary. Where I think of the DC project is more like recon scouts. They're out there doing work and doing direct action when it's appropriate or necessary, but technically out in the other side's domain, exploring and bringing back intelligence, but also, again, taking part of direct action when necessary and changing minds, creating resources. So maybe more like A-teams, but I'm going to call them scouts because there's too many of them to be A-teams.
No, I think you nailed it. They're A-teams because they're doing the direct action. They're doing the scouting. And if you look at them as individuals, almost every one of them are trainers that are training new people in firearms safety. And then they're bringing those people into the DC project too. So yeah, they're pretty much, they're doing it all. And go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the whole idea with the whole mission or whatever, Moms Demand Action, like once you look into it, right, is so flawed because they immediately, like their biggest headliner thing is like gun safety, right? And so they make it sound as if they're advocates for gun safety, right? Like that's where they hang their hat a lot of times. That's how they start a lot of their press releases and conversations,
for
stuff
sure,
like that. Yeah. And the thing is, like, how can you be an advocate for gun safety when you only mention anything once a tragedy has occurred? Like when you go to a shooting sports match, you have your safety briefing before the match starts. When you get on an airplane, they go through the safety briefing before the plane takes off. If you're going to skydive, you go through the safety training before you jump out of the airplane. Like their mission statement and what they actually do, right, doesn't line up.
Well,
and I don't know how many people are paying attention to that, but like right off the bat, that gets me.
Well, they changed their name. They changed their strategy for two reasons. Their other stuff wasn't working, and the DC project has removed their usefulness from the other sides as far as they own all mothers. So anyway, what they're trying to suggest is it's safety from guns, where what you're suggesting is safety with guns. So while other sides will have a safety thing, a prevention from safety ahead of time, they want to prevent you from having an issue by removing the item. And you're right, it's completely flawed. They only show up to exploit after, when there's an emotional way to leverage certain people and rifts, what used to be rifts in the society and what people valued and were paying attention to. But you're right, they don't pay attention to the fact that they demand that the government go in and take away one dangerous item from people who they deem to be unfit based on characteristics that change. So when they decide something new should be added as a characteristic that makes one unfit, they demand that the government go in and take away the one dangerous item that's on their agenda, the firearm, while they walk past the knives and the gasoline and the arson, the things that could be used to harm other people, because they know that the media is complicit. I'm going to go ahead and say this, that the media is complicit in spending more time, attention, money on issues that come from an individual with specifically a firearm over war, presidential elections, and Super Bowl together, I think. So that we found that research a couple of months ago that had been done a while back, and there's a reason why people go to gun-free zones with a firearm if they want to become infamous or have laws written about them. And if you read their manifestos, which they don't read when they're describing the marginalization of gun owners or the property that they don't want. So yeah, they have a flawed system, and that's why you're seeing the move towards Giffords, because the moms no longer have teeth. The moms demand no longer have teeth, and that's because the DC project came in and said, we don't speak for all mothers, we speak for all women and gun owners.
Yeah, DC Project shut down a lot of stuff. Diana is smart and their tactics are great. And they go in and they talk about how these laws actually affect women. And it's like, Yeah, so if you're against this, then how do we protect ourselves? Because you're taking our means away, and you already know police have no duty to protect unless you're in custody. Police have no duty to protect you as an individual. And that's what I love about DC Project, because they stole that thunder and made the other side actually switch tactics. And I think it was unsuccessful, because the only thing that spent less time out there than NRA Carry Guard was Mom's Demands gun safety thing that was up, and then it was gone. Because I think in one of like the photos for it, their instructor had her finger on the trigger as she was trying to instruct people on how to safely handle a firearm. And they just caught. Yep.
I remember that, but then I also saw somebody later who was at an event, and it was an Instagram post from one of the DC Project ladies. I can't remember who, but they went up and looked at the table, and there was Project Child Safe. It might not have been DC Project. It might have been NSSF, but somebody had posted where the Gifford, and it was either Gifford's or Mom's Demand. I forget. It might have been Gifford's. So it was whoever's doing the quote unquote gun safety thing now. And they were saying something, but they had literally Project Child Safe stuff on the table. In the video, they were upset because they had stole Project Child Safe stuff. But the implication there is that they're associating themselves with NSSF and valid gun community things, with the message that you should not have guns in your home to be safe from guns. You should not have guns on your person to be safe from guns. You should not have guns near children to be safe from guns. And that's damaging.
Or they're going to do things like that, right? Intentionally.
Of course.
Like
of course.
Big and mean misleading. Yeah.
But I mean, just to show the immorality of them, I guess.
Yeah. The lack of concern. Yeah.
Yeah, they have no moral high ground, and
no scruples or whatever. Yeah.
And then you have Mom at Arms, you have Million Mom Against Gun Control, you have DC Projects. So you have all these women's groups that are out there now that are just beating the snot out of them and pretty much making them ineffective. And then Giffords, I think Giffords is just around to make crappy tweets at this point, because anything else is just beat, because she could come out and say what she wants. So you can go, yeah, didn't your husband straw purchase an AR-15? And isn't this a picture of you shooting a target of a young boy? Yeah, he tried. No, he bought the gun and said he had every intention of giving it to the local PD, and everybody's like, let's call the straw purchase. And the PD wouldn't take it. So he made the purchase and then said he had he had no intention of keeping it. So he admitted to it. It was just, if you're on one side of the political tree, charges don't get pressed against you.
Well, the players on the anti-right side, are created or forged by circumstances in their lives or whatever. I'm not going to get into like conspiracy theories and say that they're orchestrated, but they're certainly created by individual circumstances. And then what you see is the motivation on the other side is driven almost entirely by one dude, or he's the money and a bunch of people have given him the decision. He may help him make the decision or encourage him to make the decision to spend his money. But it's like the 20th, 14th, I forget, depending on when I look, he's hovering in the top dozen wealthiest people on the planet, and he decides to spend his money on some stuff. And one of those, if it's not how large your drink is or some other government influence over your decisions, it's this constant debate on specifically firearms. But I was going to say it started with handgun control or violence control. Then it switched to handgun control, right? Because they wanted to change the message a little bit. And when that stopped working, it went to something else. And then it went to Mom's Demand, or it went to Mayors Against, and then it was Mom's Demand. And now it's flipping to Giffords. And it's a marketing messaging thing. I mean, the Mom's Demand lady is from Monsanto. They're used to marketing things that people don't want until people demand to have them.
Oh, and let's not forget the Kids March or whatever that was called. He financed that whole thing too after the shooting in Florida.
Oh, I forgot about and see, that didn't last very long either, right? That kid's still around, but the movement had
fell apart. No legs.
But it was probably because it was trendy at the time to have youth petition for the environment or for other things. So, you know, it's like trendy to manipulate and exploit a bunch of kids that are upset and victimized.
Oh yeah, definitely. They was totally disingenuous. But yeah, I definitely wanted to put that one out there.
Every
Yeah,
time, I think that's the one I missed.
Yeah, every town is also one. Yeah, they keep funding it. It keeps falling apart. They keep funding it, and it's short-lived. And no one asked. And if this was so successful and so many people cared, why is it continuing to fall apart?
I haven't done the research for Minuteman. It's just one of my last things I care about, really. I know that there's stuff there. I know there's some vectors there, some things we can use, some angles. But, you know, to have more effective conversations with people who, especially when they're regurgitating anti-rights type of stuff, you can say, hey, you know where that comes from? And just instead of calling them the communists, you tell them like, hey, you're being manipulated by a very rich person who has an agenda, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And maybe that can get through to some people. But so I haven't done much research on it, but I'm pretty sure that one of Dan Wass's books, I think the middle one, he's got 3 books. I think as he described it, his middle book gets into, and I haven't read it, so I'm just guessing here, but you've been on a lot of panels with him, Tony. I think his second book gets into like the motivations of the other side and kind of I'm assuming some of the history of the other side and, you know, the variations of versions of their whatever, like who pushes their agenda at the time, or how they use a bunch of, they use these different organizations like musicians. Sometimes they want a song with a lot of trumpet. Sometimes they want a song with a lot of guitar. They just queue up whatever organizations they need to bring to the bear, right?
Yeah, and those organizations do the dirty deed. They do the heavy lifting. They manipulate people. They manipulate victims, and then they go away too. I mean, let's not forget what the heck did they do? Them manipulating the parents from Sandy Hook. And then when they lost the case, the parents from Sandy Hook were on the hook for the legal fees for the other side for like $300,000 or something like that. And it's like, yeah,
I hadn't heard about that. That's messed
up. Yeah. And then those groups walked away, and it's like, well, where are you now? It was like, it was a husband and a wife, and it was, again, manipulation, but it was a husband and wife who lost their child. Dang, I hate when I don't have everything, you know, memorized. But it was a husband and wife lost their kid, and they sued, and of course they lost. And all of a sudden, the Brady Foundation, or whatever you want to call them this week, you know, new phone, who this? They're gone. These people had to pay out of pocket for this. It's like, yeah, you're on the hook. Did they not tell you what happens if you lose? Did they not tell you the firearms, or, you know, the firearms company actually are protected against lawsuits if someone uses their equipment illegally or incorrectly? So they lost that one.
Yeah, not to be callous, but that actually helps them, because now they can say this company lost to the gun company and the gun company made them go broke. Right?
Yeah. Oh, they tried to play victim, but it was like
a lot of these seen, you know, like for example, the one where was it Remington that settled out.
And this was right before Remington, because Remington settled out with advertisement.
Well, what they don't understand is people a lot of times will see that, you know, a gun company settles out, right? That emboldens, let's be honest about this, that emboldens a lot of times lawyers just looking to make a buck. And the actual people, they don't look into why that was, right? It's like, it's a totally different situation, right? Mm-hmm. The argument or the case or the complaint or whatever, because of the plaintiff obviously is a totally different thing. Yeah. And when you're talking about, I think you brought this up earlier, but when you're talking about legal stuff, when you're talking about court, like all of that makes a difference. You have to make the right arguments. If you don't make the right arguments, then you're going to lose that one way or another, whether you're the plaintiff or the defendant. You're going to end up losing that case. And so for the lawyers, it's just about making money. Like they don't, the lawyer in that Remington case is a ambulance chasing sleazebag, in my honest opinion, you know?
And Remington didn't settle because they were already going through bankruptcy.
Well, it wasn't Remington that
it was
settled.
The insurance company. Yeah. The insurance company settled.
Yeah.
So it was like all of this, if you only read the headlines, yeah, you'll believe that, oh, Remington rolled over. No, Remington was done. This was Remington's insurance company, and they were just cutting their losses. They gambled, they did the numbers, and they were like, yeah, no, you know what? Just go ahead and cut them a check.
Well, and
'Cause
it being an advertising thing, which I mean, it's hard to deny the advertising that's out there that people can see. But also, if you're talking about going to court over advertising on a now defunct company, like what are the odds that you can even make a defense, build a defense on that either? Or you know what I mean?
Well, I'm assuming that because it's a company that had a lot of products out there, that it must have had some kind of trust or some kind of a pile of money that can't be used except by customers or something, and maybe they can fight against that, or like there was some. Because you're right, like if it's just a name, because that's all it was at the time, I think, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it was done.
the name.
It was
So,
done.
like the name doesn't have any money. Somebody owns the name and decided I have insurance on the company and the name or whatever, and it's worth whatever pile of money we have here. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know how it went down either. But you're right. It wasn't a decision by a bunch of people who cared about the company or the reputation or the gun
Or the
industry.
Second Amendment. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Just a
So
business.
anyway, yeah, I don't even know where that came from, where that went, but it was great that we talked about the DC Project and other groups that actually have been so effective. They made the opposition change their tactics to even more ineffective tactics of gun safety.
Well, we got a new question from Anne, and it's an interesting one. It'll take a minute, potentially. Maybe I'll be wrong and we'll answer it really effectively. But she says, I have a question. Someone spoke about an umbrella insurance I should get. What is that? I haven't heard. I mean, I guess umbrella meaning like it encompasses a lot of things, but if you're talking about personal protection,
Carry insurance, basically.
Yeah, carry insurance. Yeah.
Call it insurance because they're not all insurance, but yeah.
Right.
They're actually none of them actually insurance.
Yeah,
none of them actually insurance. Yeah.
I've done a video on it because I tried to discover this stuff all last year to make sense of it because it's been a confusing thing for about 15 years, I guess, 10 years, something like that. So there's a number of different companies that offer liability protection. That's the best way to say it, for people who concealed carry or people that carry a firearm, or I guess you could say in circumstances that involve a firearm. Now, they're all either a fund of money that you have access to or prepaid legal. None of them are necessarily insurance or some version that I'm not a lawyer, so I can't, but they're splitting hairs or whatever. None of them are technically insurance because it has something to do with insuring against a crime or something. And each state has different things, and you can only be an insurance. It's like some things you can only be licensed in certain states. So it's just be very difficult for someone to either have, actually be licensed in every state, just like a lawyer. They can have affiliations with people in other states, but they're rarely licensed in every state. So it gets into like minutia. But in general, you're going to pay something a month or per year, somewhere under $200 or around $200 usually, depending on the flavor of the plan. And it's going to give you some measure of what's the word? Like it's going to pay you for bond often, and it's going to pay you for any civil or I guess civil charges. However, very few people get charged like that. So it's sort of, there's a lot to it. And then typically it'll offer access to lawyers. That's why a lot of them are prepaid legal or some kind of a fund that has a bunch of lawyers either on retainer or on call or whatever you want to call it. And then they supply funding to the lawyers. But essentially it's people who are aware of the situation and then offer some kind of a package so that you can be at least prepared for something that might be, a bad news. Usually it's always a bad news if you have to defend yourself at that level.
Yeah,
so it's a big question. I'll let these guys attack it because it's not an easy one to answer.
Now, I'm a U.S. Law Shield, not representative, but you can go to U.S. Law Shield, use 2A4E, and it helps us out, and I think it gives you a discount. But the reason I became a part of this was because of the education. Some of these insurances, for lack of a better word, or legal defense funds, I guess you can call them, a lot of them offer education. Now, U.S. Law Shield, USCCA, and what's his name's out in Washington State, and I can't remember his name at all.
The Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network.
So there you go. They have books, they have DVDs, they have information to give you that make you more aware of what the laws are, especially where you're from. And I think that's the educational part that I think is very important for firearms owners that are going to use a firearm for self-defense. And U.S. Law Shield actually also uses have knife defense. So if you use a bladed weapon in your defense, they take care of that too. So these things have different benefits. One of the cool things I think about U.S. Law Shield, and the only reason I'm talking about it is because that's the only one we have available in Jersey. Governor Murphy called it murder insurance, and he used our Attorney General to chase them out of the state, and the only one that was able to stay was U.S. Law Shield because of however they were set up.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the very same Governor Murphy is now requiring carry insurance if you want a carry permit in Jersey after he chased them all out of the state and called it murder insurance.
Oh, sure.
But of course, that hypocrisy is never pointed out to him by the press. It's very important that you have something like this, I feel, but you should look into them all if you have options in your state and pick out the one that works for you. And I go with 2 reasons. I say it's kind of cool because of the price. Even at the basic level, you'll be able to get all that information. You know what I mean? Directed from a good source. So you'll have information on use of deadly force and your state laws. This particular one I have, you also have access to a lawyer. You have emergency access 24/7, but you have a regular number for daytime use. If you have a question, they will get back to you. They will answer the phone and get back to you. So you don't have to ask something in a Q&A and depend on that. You can actually talk to a lawyer in your state. So those are the reasons I recommend something like that. And you don't have to get the full blown, like all the bells and whistles, but find out which one will actually allow you to contact a lawyer, because that alone, to have a lawyer, an actual lawyer that's an expert on the Second Amendment and firearms ownership, answer your question is about $200. One question at a law office, because that's what they charge. So that's why I think it's worth it, the education and the access to actual questions, ask questions to a lawyer.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is what G pointed out earlier is they're not like technically insurance. So, with insurance, you've got some regulatory standards and things going on. And so when you're talking about each of these, they're all going to be a little bit different. And the only reason that I say that, I don't know, like all the ones G has on the screen now, pretty much like U.S. Law Shield, USCCA, and Right to Bear are really the only 3 that I've got like any kind of experience with, as far as that talking with them in the past about what they do and other things, and I don't remember. Right to Bear is the new kid on the block, and I know they do some things differently than a lot of the other ones, but unfortunately I don't remember off the top of my head. That was in a podcast conversation a year ago or longer. And I don't remember exactly what those differences were, but I know they pointed out some differences. Now, I'm not saying those differences were necessarily better or anything. I'm just saying that they were differences.
Yeah, I mean, really look into it. I think overall it's worthwhile, especially if you get the lawyer thing and you get the information. The information is the most important, I feel, because and it may be because of when we came up, guys. I mean, we came up in the gun stores. So you hear gun store lawyers, you know what I mean? Like we call them in the Marine Corps sea lawyers, the dude that think they know what they're talking about because, they've been in the Marine Corps 6 months longer than you. So they know the legal aspect of everything. If you shoot them, drag them back in the house, that kind of stupid information that was given. If they're trying to steal your TV or something, you can shoot them. Just bad advice that people get as new gun owners. A lot of that can be circumvented by the information you can get from these organizations as a member. and bad information will turn a self-defense shoot into a murder charge.
So I spent some time February of last year, just after SHOT Show, because of that bear one came out, and I was like, dang it, like, just like Clover. They're like, hey, blah, 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 and I'm so much different than everybody else. And I'm like, you know what? This is too many to keep track of in our head. Let's write it down, right? So this is from left to right's the order that they started. 2008 Armed Citizens Legal Defense Fund. That's essentially a cop who turned into a lawyer, got Massad Ayub and a bunch of other people to be expert witnesses, created a fund to pay for the lawyers and the expert witnesses in case you have to go to trial. So that's where that one came from. U.S. Law Shield is a bunch of lawyers in Texas. It used to be called Texas Law Shield, and then it expanded throughout the United States. I suspect through like affiliations with other lawyers and insurance places. It's something like an insurance policy, but I've been told that it's also prepaid legal. So you got to talk to different people, and you're going to get different opinions on it. CCW, and that one is, sorry, from Texas. The first one is from Washington State. CCW Safe came up 2 years later and is, I was told it was created by ATF agent and a cop, but I'm now told by them it was just two cops or something. But it's essentially from the legal side of it, from the law enforcement, from the government side, as opposed, well, I guess so does the first one, but then as opposed to from the lawyer side, right? But the lawyers in the U.S. Law Shield are prosecuting attorneys, so originally. So it's all coming from the government side. They saw people get railroaded. They created systems to prevent that. CCW Safe is from Oklahoma. In 2011, USCCA switched from a membership system on their website to a magazine, and then they created CCW Carry Insurance to supplement their membership system. And then it became more popular than the rest of it, so they became CCW Carry Insurance. Second Call Defense, I think they were an insurance company from, what is that, Ohio? Or they're cops? No, they're people.
No, it's Sean Maloney, right?
Yeah, those are the people who were Second Amendment activists, right? And attorneys, and they became a defense thing. Then you got Firearms Legal. That's the one from Southern, oh shit, that one's from Texas too. But anyway, they're an insurance company and then spread around mostly through affiliate sales, and they work with Active Self. I'm going to leave that one alone. And then you got NRA Carry Guard came and left, right? So they came around as a reaction to USCCA, as a let's be jerks. And that's one of the reasons people are pissed at the NRA at a time when they could have been doing important things. They were farting around competing with USCCA. Some people are upset with USCCA for distracting NRA at an important time, but depends on whose side you want to be on or how big a picture you want to look at. And then you get Right to Bear. So 7 years later, Right to Bear comes along. They're also an insurance company out of Utah this time, and then moved out from there. Then the option that everybody forgets about, and if you listen to any lawyers, there's just plain old prepaid legal. Find a lawyer who's legit, who cares about, knows firearms law, and hire them to be your prepaid lawyer. Those are the options. So as I started to look at this stuff, you got your prices, of course, and they all just fiddle around with prices. Like I say, let's just say they're all less than $200 a year, unless you want to pay for the bonuses, and then it's a little bit more than $200 a year. You get coverage, except for the states that dick with them. They're everywhere, except for the states that dick with them. And sorry for those states, but they're pretty much Washington and New Jersey and a couple of other states. Then it's all about where you can travel, how they're going to pay out. There's a lot of, in my opinion, after researching this, a lot of flim-flam going on the civil damages and the civil defense costs and stuff, which I'm told by lawyers who don't care about any of this, that's all flim-flam, that nobody ever actually gets sued. So they can say, I'm going to give you $1 million worth of coverage for this, which never happens. So it's just flim-flam. But maybe they're going to tell me I'm wrong because they're trying to sell their stuff and they know more about it than I do. You got bail bonds, you got if they're going to pay, or if they even have expert witnesses, you got if they're going to pick the lawyers, or if you have to pick your lawyers, if your dependents are covered for an extra cost or not. Then you get into psychological counseling, right? After a shoot, think about PTS for military who are getting ready to have to go kill people. Now you just had to do it out of nowhere. Psychological counseling, what if it's your spouse or your child? Psychological counseling, again, are you paying for hundreds of dollars of that, or is your insurance, right? Lost wages while you're in court? Does it work in constitutional carry or not, right? And they won't answer these questions. So this was difficult to come up with. Do they clean up the crime scenes? That can cost a lot of money. If it's not your property where the crime happens and you're liable for it, that could be a lot of money, I think. Does it work for anything? Like Tony said, is it for knives and everything? Spoiler alert, they all work for all weapons. Confiscations, recoupment, if they take your gun or not. What if it's an AD? What if you accidentally discharge? You're still responsible for that. Most of them say, good luck, that wasn't a lawful situation. And then if they work in gun-free zones, none of them do, spoiler alert. And then you got extras, like a lot of them, rightfully so, and some of them hide behind those who rightfully give you excellent instruction. Some of them give you excellent instruction that's top-notch, world-class instruction, better than law enforcement and military. Others say, we do too. Now I'm going to leave it at that because that's up to you, and I don't get paid by any of them. Look at their YouTube presence. I put that in there because it makes a difference if they're paying for influence or if they have respect. And then you can look at if they have affiliate programs, and if they're, in other words, are people getting paid to say they're so good, or are they just literally doing stuff that's good? I have their Better Business Bureau ratings in here, and then who they're affiliated with, like Marty Hayes, Masada Ayub, Tom Givens, Dennis Tueller, Larry Vickers, Jeff Gonzalez, and then you've got other people that are affiliated with other ones. So I tried to put all that down there, and guess what? Everybody hates me. Either people have, and they hate me for saying anything bad about it, or they're one of them and they hate me for even bringing up the comparison. So talk about shooting yourself in the foot. Don't make a concealed carry chart and then try to give indifferent opinions. Well, I'm not indifferent, but try to give opinions about it. It's not a winning strategy.
Now, see, as somebody that, what do you call it, affiliate? I don't know what you call it. Anyway, my whole thing is this: get educated on it, read it, find out if it's for you, and buy in if you want to. But here's my thing with U.S. Law Shield in Jersey: you don't have to be a member to go to one of the meetings, one of the lectures. It's $20. It's $20 to go to one of the lectures and learn about armed self-defense in New Jersey, what the laws are, what deadly force laws are in the state, and ask the lawyer that's hosting the events questions and have them answered right there, or they will get back to you. So I'm like, dude, for $20, plus they provide food and drinks, go. If all you ever spent was $20 and it answers your question, why not do it? Like, I don't know how many others hold seminars, because I mean, I'd work with USCCA when I wrote an article for them when they came to me and asked me to write an article for 2A4E. And because I'm not partial to any of them, I'm like UG, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, is this legit? And how do I learn about them all? Because I've met Sean Maloney because we were on a podcast together on the Firearms Radio Network. And that's where I met him. And then we were met at the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg. So that's how I came into learning about these self-defense insurance or funds or whatever you want to call them. And then USCCA and then US Law Shield. So that's how I came about learning about all these organizations or businesses. Never forget, they're businesses.
And they're not doing bad things. I mean, some of them only work in some states, so they're better than an alternative of zero, right? Not having anybody on your side. And I don't think it's wise to stack them. I've heard negative things about stacking them, but some of them can be more like Tetris, where they fit like puzzle pieces together and they're not necessarily stacked. They just have maybe a little overlap, is the way to say it. So everybody's circumstances are going to be different. Me, a single dude, is different than a family of 6, right? Where 3 of the kids are 18 and carrying. So it's, or 21 and carrying wherever you live. Everybody's circumstances are different. Somebody's going to sue me. Where they're going to take all my bills. Like, I don't have resources. Other people have stuff they got to worry about having, taken from them in court. So, what I'm saying? Like, everybody's got different things. So my opinions may vary. Part of it is because I've lived through them slinging mud at each other and keeping the issues confusing. And some of the people that shill for them, it's one of the things I use to indicate, like, I don't know. You can't tell who's chilling for you when you got an affiliate system, but so they're about $10 each. Everybody who's trying to sell you one is getting $10 every time you sign up. So it's a pretty lucrative situation compared to other things. Typically an affiliate thing is going to give you like $1, you know, depending on what you buy, $1 or $2. So when you can get a $10 bill every time somebody makes a signature, there's some incentive to send people over. And I don't like necessarily what that results in for some people. For a lot of people, it's like, hey, I've used this, it's legit, I trust in it, I'm 100% honest with you. Other people are like, I really need $100. So if 10 people sign up for this, I'll do anything.
Yeah, and see, I wanted to avoid that because I don't want anyone questioning my motivation when it comes to things like this. And I didn't even know my affiliate code until October, when I went and actually spoke to at that event, and they had a U.S. Law Shield rep there, because they changed one in my area over. They actually hadn't had one yet. Dude stepped down, I think, before the Great American Outdoor Show. So he stepped down after SHOT Show. So in January of last year, he'd stepped down, and I had no one to even communicate with until October. But I'd been telling people, look, you live in Jersey, this is the only option you have. Look into it, and if it works, it works. And doing the diversity shoot at different ranges, well, all the ranges are affiliates of these people. And I was like, use their code. It doesn't make a difference to me. I was like, people need to be educated. I don't care about the little $10 or whatever, you know what I mean, that comes to us, to the diversity shoot. Don't worry about it. I think it's more important that you either get this coverage or at least learn about it. And that's how I directed people to it, because to me, it's not always about the money. If you sold your soul for $10, in my opinion, you're a freaking idiot. Sorry, but I don't think it's worth it in my book to give up my word. You know what I mean? To give up how people view me, like legitimately.
Well, I don't think there's, and I don't really think there's a bad one. I just think that, you know, some of them are more perfect for some people than others. Like if somebody's interested in training and they sign up for the one that doesn't offer training, and then they just don't even realize they could have signed up for a different one, that's some pretty awesome training. That might bother some people, you know, if they knew, but it's not like any of them that I'm aware of leave you hanging or don't cover you. I guess there's always stories like that, but I'm not aware of any of them. I don't think they would exist if they had a reputation for doing that intentionally. Or well,
in my mind, it's all about, even like regular insurance. When you're shopping for that, it just gets to be so blah. After a while, you just want it to go away.
They don't compare the same things. Yeah, exactly. It's like fire ratings on safes or something.
Yeah.
Regular insurance. They're going to compare different things so that it stresses you out and you just choose based on which color logo you like better or whatever.
Yeah, it really gets down to that. I just want the noise to stop. And I totally get it. So my whole thing is look into it, understand what it is. There is no panacea. There's no great whatever, but I like the fact that I got a lawyer on tap. I got the booklets, I got the DVDs, and that's any of them. Now, I mean, as far as people I know many people in USCCA. You know what I mean? Like I know their editor, Beth Alcazar, who's also a member of the DC Project, who also is a powerhouse in her own right in Alabama, working as a 2A activist. So she's a personal friend of mine. So when it comes to this, that's also why I'm not, oh, don't deal with these people, deal with these people. I'm like, I know Marty Hayes. Him and I have actually spoken on the phone. I know Masa Yub. You know what I mean? Like, So it's your money. Spend it wisely. Buyer beware. And I'm not saying they'll cheat you out of your money. I'm just saying know what you know. Know what you're getting into. Know what they have to offer and pick the right one for you.
Yeah, and hopefully it's all wasted money because you never have to worry about the board, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. And for our esteemed governor to call it murder insurance is just more of a politician just being insulting, in my opinion. Just being base, insulting to think you're too stupid to figure out. It's like you have insurance for a lot of different things. People have dental insurance. You have health insurance. You have car insurance. You have home insurance. You have rental insurance. I don't think it should be tied to you exercising a right, but I think you should be able to have it if you need it. if you choose to purchase it.
Yeah, if you feel you want it. Right?
Especially if you, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, especially if you live in a state the prosecution, excuse me, and this is every state in America, them prosecuting you can have political overtones or a political motivation. Then yeah, you want to be able to be able to financially protect yourself in case you use this firearm to save you or someone else's life. And I use an example and people don't like it, but and they get their backs up. But that's why I use that example. George Zimmerman. That was a stand your ground thing. That was determined very early on, almost immediately after it happened. And then the media got a hold of it and it became political. And $1 million later, it was still found to be a stand your ground thing and he was found not guilty. But does anyone want to have the name George Zimmerman now? No. So it's important that you be able to see how a good self-defense shoot, whether you believe it was good or not, a court said it was, can cost you a lot of money and become political. So yeah, something like this is kind of important because you never know when things can go sideways. And that's just, again, the oddity of it happening, the chances of it happening, very rare. But if you're going to get insurance and it's going to cost you $200 to $300 a year, why not? That's a case of ammo.
Well, and it's only 300 if you got like a family. It's like 200, less than 200 for most regulars, like just single situations.
Yeah, I dumped everything. I got all the stuff because I wanted to check it out and I wasn't going to recommend it unless I kind of sort of did it myself.
Oh, right on. So then we've got a thing from Tony, and then I'm going to, or from Artisan Tony, and then I'm going to say let's end it because it's getting right at the, well, it's just the 2-hour mark. Earlier,
sure.
though, Tony asked, did we see the U.S. Court of Appeal strikes down ban on bump stocks? So that's the fifth court out of Texas. I don't know if I mentioned it on this show or not, but yeah, Michael Cargill out of Texas, a gun shop owner out of Texas that does a radio show every Sunday afternoon. We listen to it live. Join in on the text chat over there. Thanks to Yoder, Texas, for telling us about it. So yeah, he sued the state of Texas for taking away his bump stock without what's it called, reimbursing him. I think that was the thing. And that went finally went up, and then now it's going to conflict with that other court that said, no big deal about bump stocks. So now that's, I think the suggestion is that should take it to the Supreme Court. Is that right? Or was it Clover saying that it might not? It just means that
yeah, he said there's a chance. I haven't clicked that one yet because I think that was on 4 Boxes Diner too. Was that him? Or was that the other guy that had it up?
Well, there's a couple. I read an article and then watched his video. So there might be, I'm sure Armed Scholar or somebody else has a video on it too.
Yeah, because I mean, truthfully, I hope it gets shut down because I'm also one of those dudes that hope the FRT thing with rare breed triggers gets shut down too. You know what I mean? That you could have these things and the ATF can't just recategorize something as a machine gun because they can't reword legislation, because that's what they're trying to do. The ATF wants to avoid court at all costs because it's bullcrap and they're overreaching. And no real court is going to stand for that. Fine, it's just going to get shut down. Just like this happened. But again, it costs a bunch of money to get there. And the risk of other people's freedom, which is the most annoying part.
All right, we're at the 2-hour mark. We're going to wrap it up. This is the last show before SHOT Show. We're all going to say hey to SHOT Show. I don't know. Did we all get together, 3 of us, at SHOT Show last year? I don't think so.
Not together at the same time, but I think we all met up.
Well, I mean, I know we all met up, yeah, but I'm trying to remember. I don't think we all, because in the media room when I saw you, he wasn't in there. When I seen him, you weren't in there. So.
Yeah, because Clover hits there first thing in the morning. They grab their food and they get out of there.
No, he goes up there on that.
Oh, he does?
Well, I mean, but yeah, he doesn't hang out up there. Like, I don't know. I definitely know people that hang out up there. I have in the past, but
usually drop in around lunch again, and I usually drop in around closing time again. Simply because I use the coat check service a lot. So that's one of the reasons I'm up that way.
I started doing that too. I'm like, wait a minute, you mean I don't have to carry all this stuff on my back all day long?
Right.
I hope they have lunch and breakfast like for real this time.
Well, Clover made a point when we were chatting about this or someplace else that that it might have been last time because of the stupid cough bullshit. So that makes a good point that they may have not just been like, we hate you, but it might have been like, we're not allowed to feed you this food that's open anymore. So buffets are back. So I'm assuming that would mean that's gone. If that was the case.
I hope so. Because one, I know where the food is so you can go and eat and then get back. And the other thing is the price. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, dude, one, I have to leave here, grab something to eat, or eat it here in a casino at casino prices. And I mean, I'm not going to tell the story here, but it's ridiculously expensive.
Versus free in the media room.
Yeah, it's ridiculously expensive versus free. Or drive further off the freaking strip to get, regular people prices, not tourist prices on food.
Well, I guess what could happen, and this we could think about doing, there's enough people going that if people wanted to, no, we get in trouble. I was going to say we could have somebody go grab food and then bring it back, but actually we would get in trouble. You're not supposed to bring food into shop. So you can't even bring food into the media room. Like well, that's why nobody does it. Like otherwise there'd be people doing that. But that's why you don't see like KFC out on the media room tables or whatever.
Oh, heck no. Oh, they tase you at the door. Those little old senior ladies at the door. Those are some nice people, though. I do have to say the staff there is really nice.
Yeah, and I think it's because most of the people that we're seeing are people that just live in Vegas and do trade shows. Right? That's what they do for a living is, hang out at the door or whatever trade show it happens to be. And I'm guessing that we're a more polite trade show than a lot of them. Because there's very few people walking around, except for the foreigners. I mean, I'm not going to give any slack to the foreigners who are super rude and weird. Except for them being super rude and weird. Everybody else, sorry about that. Everybody else is, pretty nice, I think. Fairly polite. A lot of gun shop owners and cops and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I see.
We're probably rude.
Other than Clover being mean to me. Other than Clover being mean to me and Trey because we were making fun of him on range day.
Being mean to you and Trey because you're making fun of me. Like, what's wrong with that sentence, first of all? Second of all, that's at range day. Okay. What happens at range day stays at range day.
I'm like, a combined age of like 500 is at this table, and we all giggling like school children. Seriously, dudes. When are we gonna grow up? No time soon. That's my answer.
I wasn't giggling. I was enjoying a rather tasty corn dog.
And when we go to range day, we get this ticket, and then we can go take the ticket to a food truck and get free food at the food truck. So we get free food at range day also, which is better because you get the ticket and it's real food.
Once upon a time, we got a Yeti cup, but that
went away.
Well, you can get that if you haul ass in there. I mean, they quit doing it?
Oh, yeah, they didn't have it this last time for sure.
Well, you just got to get there super early usually to get the free, whatever the free thing is.
Yeah, we were there. Like
I couldn't have been no more than the 20th one through the gate this last time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then if they didn't have it, then, well, you know what'll happen then? Sometimes they're like, they're not here yet. The guy with the cups didn't show up. We'll be here in an hour. And then you're like, what the fuck did I get here early for you? So.
Could be. I didn't see anybody else walking around with it either.
No. But that isn't consistent. That's only been like 3 times. There's usually something cool. There's always the coolest thing for free, and there's usually something cool that runs out that you're like, what? I didn't know that it was there. Or you got one, and everybody else is like, what? I didn't know that was there.
As much fun as we had making fun of Clover and that freaking corn dog, I wish I had one because that thing looked good. I'll probably get one this time.
You'll have your chance. It's coming up.
Oh, I'm going to be. We're going deep too. We have a bunch of the guys, and I'm going to see if I can get someone in to actually do camera work for me if we're not all there at the same time. Just so I can get.
I guess I'm interrupting. How soon will it be before we got little drones that just follow us around to do camera work?
Well, I mean, have you ever partnered up with somebody and just take turns filming?
Yeah, I did it. I did it both in 2020 and 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like an asshole. Sorry. But it's like, yeah, I mean, you're doing it for content because you're going to spread the content around over months. And it's like, yeah, can you film me shooting this gun and, do the little blurb that we all know you do? And it's like, dude, I just feel like a dork. But people want to see the stuff, so you do it. Like I just used a clip of me shooting Argo J's Bravo Oscar, like day before yesterday. that I got that I shot at SHOT Show in 2020. So it's not like it goes bad.
You'll get some things. Like I'll put up old pictures sometimes when people are like, where'd that handguard come from? Or who used a Burke grip like that? Like, well, in 2007 when I took this picture, it was cool. It was the bee's knees.
Yeah, right. Things change. And things come back. 10 millimeter.
Booyah!
All right. On that note, we're ending it. So thanks everybody for joining us. We each have a Patreon. I recommend you join our Patreons for as little as giving us a cup of coffee each month. Think about it. If a cup of coffee is $5 and 100 people jumped on a Patreon, that's a major chunk of bills right there. If a couple of hundred jump on, you're potentially encouraging a content creator that produces stuff that you value to do it not just more often, but step up the game and do. You're enabling people to create and do things that they would normally be, shy away from because they're not sure it's worth it. So we really appreciate the people that subscribe to what we do on Patreon. We each have one. We also each have stores. Tony's got shirts. If you're going to a rally, you can get a really cool colored blue shirt that says the Diversity Shoot logo or the 2A for E logo, and then the gun control equals racism. So it's a message. It's also a consistent color. So if you are going to be going to some kind of a rally or event, you can everybody can be wearing a similar T-shirt. Additionally, Clover's got hats, got stickers and patches and other merch over at the store that helps him get around, do things. We've got a store, Gear Websites. I'll put a commercial here up at the end. And then others. There's lots of people out there that we've talked about today that you may be familiar with, and we're capitalists. So we really value those who allow us to continue doing what they're doing or what we're doing. And we'll be back next Saturday. Well, no, we won't. We'll be at SHOT Show next week. So, I mean, I don't know. We're probably not going to be back here next Saturday. I'm not going to try to put up a show or nothing. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks, and we'll be able to talk about what we experienced at the show. More than likely, the government likes to drop stuff right before show or right before SHOT. So expect something on the 13th in the afternoon if they're anything like they've done in the past. And we might have some important stuff to be talking about as well as the fun stuff. That being said, I just want to throw something out at the end here. Don't let your adversary decide when you're going to be happy or sad. Don't let them take away our SHOT Show or the positive benefits of having the industry together. They intentionally drop horse shit all over the place every time SHOT Show, whenever they need to politically screw up SHOT Show to make it difficult for us to have effective get-togethers. So we can champion that by being multitasking and not getting played. I don't know who needs to hear that at the end of the show, but I put it out there anyway. Oh, I guess I'm going to throw a quick commercial out there. Thanks for listening. Thanks, and we value everybody that's out there. There's quite a few people listening all the way into this 2-something hours in on a Saturday. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Value your voice. Thanks for contributing out there. And thanks, DJ, for dropping links to just about everything we've talked about today. GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com. Need to get like commercial